back at 2024 Partner Series, kind of lay out what our plans are for 2025, and then, as well as a few other things. But so we're going to talk a little bit about reintroducing our website here, just making sure that everybody has, seen it, kind of knows how we've constructed it, the information that you can find there. We've got a blog that we sent, but we've posted here that will kind of review kind of what we did in 2024. This is the first time we've done that. I really have to give some credit to our marketing team, Laura and Adam, who kind of went back through and created just some highlights of the partner series that we did in 20. We've kind of gathered that all into one blog and given you some highlights of each of those. If you want to kind of go back and get a quick hit there, we'll show you where you can find that. We're taking a slightly different approach. We started doing it in 24, but we're taking a slightly different approach in 25 for the partner series. So we'll show you kind of our plan for that, starting with the first guest in February. We did put out also a trends blog, some of the things we're seeing in our industry. So we'll look at that in just a second as well. And then finally, something that we're going to end with is so our order management system has something that they call project and client portals. David, who's on the call, has been generous enough to let me use him as an example to show some of like the project portal that we're working on with that he has access to, that you all have access to as you get sales orders, et cetera, from us, as well as the client portals. Okay, so this is our website. The big thing that I want to draw your attention to is just some things that we try to populate on an ongoing basis. And really, I'm going to just start with the hour work. This is something that we really started to try to populate last year. We realized that we work on a lot of really cool projects that people need to kind of know about, things that people don't necessarily know that we do. You can see a few cool things here, like a wine bottle or a scooter that we did for Buffalo Construction. Project, David, that we did for you a while back, and a kit that we did here. So I would just encourage you, this is something that we're working really hard to populate on a more ongoing basis. And when you get into one of these, you'll see that what we try to do is show you some photos and then give you some information on what was the request that we got, what solution did we come up with, and ultimately what was the result. So hopefully this becomes a place that you can come and see some examples of the work that we're doing. I'll jump over to news. This is, we call it news. And I can tell you that our philosophy on blogs, mostly for 2025, is that, and you'll see it in a second when we talk about the 2025 Partner Series, we're taking kind of the monthly theme and focus for the Partner Series, and we're allowing that to cascade down into things that we're putting out to support that. And you also see here the 2025 trends we'll look over in a little bit, as well as the summary of the 2024 Partner Series. But you'll also see some other things in here that we've written and posted over the years. The next thing, I do host a podcast. I know we live in a day and age where a lot of people have podcasts, but we do host a podcast. It's called The Brand Herald. Right now, I release an episode a month. You can see, if you go to this page on the site, the guests that we've had. We've had some really excellent guests, but we have just been really fortunate to get some really awesome guests. And I actually was sharing this morning at a coffee meeting. The point of the podcast is just to explore branding. It is to discuss the art and science of building a brand, what works, what doesn't, the way people go about doing it. And then obviously the role, a little bit of a tip of the cap to the role of branded clothing and promotional items along the way. But it is not a veiled sales pitch. This is, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the reason that I do the podcast is I sort of get mentored by people who are really excellent and that I respect a ton in business and in branding. And then if I get better, our business gets better. And it also teaches me a lot to be able to bring to our team. So I think it's something that is really, I've enjoyed doing it, and hopefully it's a way that you can get to know the personality of the company. And then finally, the Partner Series itself, in addition to the summary that we'll go over here in a second, this is the page on our website where we are posting Partner Series after they're completed. For folks that can't join live, obviously we're sending them by email, but they will always be here and posted on an ongoing basis if you want to go back and watch any of them. And we've continued to try to improve this too, like the videos. We used to just post the videos full length. We've been working really hard. Again, Laura on our team has been working really hard to kind of compress these down to as short a period of time as possible. So she'll really just get in the highlights. The example I use is you can watch an NFL game in 15 minutes if you cut out all the other stuff except the plays, right? So that's the goal here. Is we feel like once people come back, if they weren't able to join live and enjoy that with us, they're really going to want to just get to the information as quickly as possible that they may find useful. So we're trying to do that, and we'll continue to do that. So let's jump into the 2024 Partner Series. So again, for those of you that joined throughout 24, we appreciate that. We shifted in 24. Previously, we had kind of been like, hey, in February, we're going to have this company and this person. And what we really realized was sometimes those things weren't terribly meaningful to you all. It's, I had, again, something I picked up on one of the podcasts, Jeff Arsenal, who's the director of marketing at Clayton & Groom here in town. He said, you got to make sure you're talking to the customer and not yourself. that seems like a very obvious thing, but sometimes in practice, it's a little harder than it might seem. And so what we started to do in 24 was shift the conversation on the partner series around to be more topical. So instead of talking about the companies, it's talking about things that we feel like topics and things that'll be relevant to you. So this was awesome. I think what Laura and Adam and the team did was they went through and they were like, okay, let's summarize all the partner series that we did in 24 and do it in a way that we give some takeaways.
I say that a lot of that stuff in those videos is evergreen information. So while they are talking about a lot of new products in there, a lot of the decoration methods and things that makes them unique is evergreen information. So it is always worth going back in there and taking a look at some of that information if you're just kind of curious to know who Pop Promos is or ETS Express and things like that.
Exactly. So you can see in January, we talked about kind of how drinkware, even though it's something that probably people get a little glazed over in our industry, they feel like they see it everywhere all the time. It's something that we love ETS as our primary partner for that. Mike came on to talk about kind of how impactful that can be. And you can see some of the takeaways that it's a long lasting way to share brand story and so on. So this is great. And then, you can go forward into February where we talked about fully custom items with Pop Promos. And then we talked about creative packaging and sustainability with Prop and so on. So I'm going to go over all this, but I want you guys to know this is there. We talk a lot internally about our industry is so noisy and we're really, and it's chaotic, and we're just trying to bring order to the chaos and find ways to help to do that. I'll jump forward to, I want to show you our lineup for 2025. And I'm excited to share this with you, and you can see very topical. So again, in this month of January, you see we're talking about what we call planning and portals. So, the planning part is looking back at 24, looking at 25, what's our plan, and the partner series and a lot of the information we share through that we hope is very useful in helping you plan and see things that you might want to make use of as you're trying to, better engage your employees and customers with branded clothing and promotional items. And then also just setting the table for you guys everyone understanding what we've got planned for 25. In February, we're going to have, his name is Steve Donlin. He's what we call a multi-line rep in our business. So our business really has two types of reps. Probably your industries are similar. There's captive reps, where all they do is rep one line, and then there's multi-line that have multiple lines. In this case, Steve is a multi-line. He represents probably 8 lines. We're going to be focusing on 3 and really focusing in on practical and useful giveaways.
Big pushes we try to make this year with our partner series, moving out of the what and into the why. Like we were showing a lot of products in years past, and it was great, but a lot of people were just like, it's great, it's a great product, but how can I use them? And so this year we're trying to really think through this and bring solutions to you or for you. And so you're seeing that with how we've labeled a lot of these to kind of get you thinking outside the box a little bit there.
Yeah, it's great. I think definitely, like Brett said, coming at it more from a use case standpoint, we'd be open to ideas that you feel like are not covered here. You can see, like in March, we're going to talk about events and trade shows. And then obviously we're in Kentucky, so we'll talk a little bit about Derby. We do have a lot of customers. They'll be doing Derby parties. And actually Derby parties are happening more, in other parts of the country these days too. So, and we'll have one of our partners on there that do table covers, backdrop, retractable banners, all those kinds of things, as kind of a way to talk about things that you need for events and trade shows. In April, we're going to talk about golf. We're bringing on Brian with EMT. They make, I don't know if you guys have seen the snaps. These are these things that I'm not going to pull it up now, but it covers like the back end of the hat. It's kind of a new product in golf, but they've got that. They got ball markers. They've got all kinds of things that are really good for golf. You can see in May, we're going to talk about decoration methods. So that's one thing we've learned is all the different decoration methods that are available to us that's what we do every day. But sometimes we don't do a good job of explaining that and what the differences are. For example, what's the difference between plastisol screen printing versus water-based versus discharge versus direct to garment and all these things that you may or may not have heard. And it's just like explaining that, or like when it comes to hats, and that's who we're going to have PJ Hemlock, who is our rep with Richardson Headwear, which I'm sure everybody on here has probably had it. If they haven't bought a 112 from us, they got one from someone else, I'm sure. We're going to be talking about all the different ways you can decorate hats, which is crazy. I mean, everything from direct embroidery to leather patches to embroidered patches to PVC patches to the chain stitch. If anybody around here went to the PGA this year and you saw the hats that had holla across the front, we did a Goodson hat, which I could probably grab here and show you. But there's just a lot of different decoration methods. And what we find is that we think it's just going to be really good and useful to have a conversation around, hey, what all is available to you? And what's the pros and cons of those things? Kits and fulfillment and warehousing in June. Shops class. Shops class for us is our online shops, which has become a huge focus for us. We're actually going to spend 1 month really talking about what what are shops to us and how do we do them? And we'll have a partner for that. In August, we're going to talk about one-piece minimums. So we have a lot more suppliers these days. You probably, some of you were on for the call that we had with Swanky. They were Swanky Badger. Now they're just called Swanky. But their whole specialty is one-piece minimums. And we have more and more suppliers that are coming online and offering one-piece minimums. September, where we're targeting for another Partner Series Live, obviously kicks off gifting season. So we're trying to start making sure that we help get out there early as you will be planning for Q4 client employee gifts, food gifts, which is something that has been done in our industry for a long, long time, but a company like Maple Ridge Farms, where you can actually do, the packs of sweet treats, you could do everything, they even have like sausages and cheeses and things like that. Lots of items like that we're going to talk about in October. We're going to hit on premium clothing brands in November, and then December we take off because everybody's on holiday for the most part, and then come back in 2026. So hopefully this lineup makes sense. With that, I want to kind of bump back over to our website and talk through some trends. And so the first one that we see here that we've listed is personalizations. We're finding that more and more customers are wanting to put, whether it's personalized messages, people's names. We're even seeing in some instances when drinkware is done, people are wanting to print a space where people can write their name, with a Sharpie. I know that we're just seeing a lot more requests, like this says, apparel with people's names and initials, a drinkware with a personal message, custom-made gifts based on interest, things like that. So that's kind of the first trend that we're seeing. The second one is sustainability continues to be a growing category for us. We have a company like Rupp that we had on as a partner last year during a partner series where they are actually, if you go on Rupp's website, you can actually see from start to finish how they sourced and produced every product that they have, and they documented it. So you've got sort of the sustainability angle of like people wanting to see it responsibly sourced. Then you also have just the sustainability of the actual materials in the product, and it just continues to grow, the options there. So not everybody we work with have a major focus on this, but if you do, it's a good time to have that focus because there is a lot more in our industry today than there ever has been before for those types of products. And we've got plenty of suppliers to help you with it. The third trend that we're seeing is, they said, products that add to an experience. So it's like this idea of people are buying, I think they're more apt now to buy less items of a higher quality than, depending on the use case, of course, than the high quality, lower cost items. And they're wanting those items, I think, to become part of an experience for their customers. So we're seeing a lot of items that are being paired with things. So that's a big focus for us going forward, is kits and packages, to where, like, we just executed on a kit for a customer where they called it a foodie kit. Inside was a cutting board. There was an apron. Then we also added in a few just non-branded food items. So it was like some spices and some sauces and different things that they can use. And that was delivered to be more of an experience than just an individual gift. So definitely focus on experience. Retail brands are huge and continue to be huge. I've said for a while that there's a huge convergence of people's personal lives in our industry. We are much more apt now for people to find things in their personal life and come over and say, hey, I want to give. Obviously everyone's aware the Stanley's been huge. The O'Wallet brand, which I probably shouldn't even mention that because it's been so popular that ETS is having trouble even having them in stock. JBL speakers, Holderness and Bourne Golf, Peter Millar has always been popular. We're just seeing that convergence, and people are much more interested in bringing retail brands into the things that they're giving to their customers and employees. And it's coming in, and it's very, very strong in the online shops that we do, as well as the kits and packages that we do. Talked a little bit about kits becoming more and more important. And there's a couple ways we do kits. We have a lot of suppliers that they've developed what I would call stock kits. So they're like ready-made. They've already put a group of products together, and you can go in and just, basically put your logo on those things, messaging, and go with it. Or we build full custom kits to where we're working with you and your art team to design and print boxes if it's required. We're actually helping you curate, pick the components that are going in, and then our team will actually assemble those kits too. Much higher value add. And then finally, this whole idea of technology. Technology continues to be a strong category for us. Everything from the MagSafe chargers to just wireless chargers, cables. We do tons and tons of charging cables, and still do a lot of Bluetooth speakers, headphones, earbuds, and all those kind of things. I will say again, you come back to technology tying in with the retail brand trend. People are just really focused on retail brands there because I think, especially in technology, it tends to represent quality. So the last thing we want to talk about today is the order management system that we use. They have two features. They've rolled this out. It's still a work in progress, I think, even on their end, but very much on our end. David, as I mentioned early on with Wirecrafters, has said, hey, yeah, feel free to use mine to demonstrate. There's a little bit of work that has to happen on the back end for us to really make these things deliver type of value that we think that they can. And the one thing I want to point out is here's an example of an email. You'll see that it says client and project portal. So the client portal, we always reiterate these links in all of the emails that we send. And this is an example of a client portal. So the idea of the client portal is that this is a place, this is sort of the client view, your view in on what we've done for you over time. So all orders. The primary use cases for this is that you can start a new project with us if you want. Obviously, we love phone calls, emails, text messages, whatever is most convenient for you. But also, if you have after hours or something, a project that you want to start with us, you can go to your client portal and you can start a project with this form. And this will come to us and then we'll reach out to you. As well as a summary of all the projects that we've done for you. Now, you'll see this says sales order, sales order, sales order, which are some projects that we're currently in process on. And it says view project. If I click view project, now you're essentially into what the project portal is. So if I go back to that email, you'll see it says project portal. This is the project portal specifically for that project. And at any point, you can go back and see the presentation we sent you. You can see the sales order that we sent you and that you approved if you ever want to reference that. And you can also see the order status. And it's going to show you what stage it's in, proofing and production or shipped. Now, I want to point something out. One little wrinkle on the order status thing that we've talked to them a lot about, and one thing we don't like is, let's say that you place an order with us with 3 or 4 different items and they're going to deliver at different times, but we have one date on the sales order. It's going to pull that same date. So they're working to improve, hopefully that makes sense. It's going to pull the dates from the sales order and assume it applies to all the items on the sales order. But it's very likely that in some instances, those items will be kind of progressing at different rates. They don't yet have this functioning really well in terms of reflecting that information. But it is still very useful to be able to reference your presentation, reference your sales order, and eventually reference your invoice. So if I go back here and what you're going to see down here, and this is actually the last thing I'll say that I think is a great feature of this, and we have a handful of customers that use this. Any order that has been completed and invoiced, at any point, you can make your way to this client portal and you can click view and reorder. And you can basically enter a reorder to us. Now, obviously, it comes in sort of as a pro forma order. And depending on how much time has passed, we have to kind of revisit inventory, make sure we confirm availability, confirm current pricing, et cetera. But this is a way for you to indicate to us that you want to order more of something. Most of the time, it's just helpful. We found customers like the fact that they can kind of scroll back through, hey, what are all these things that I've done with Goodson when they're doing planning? So this is the planning part of the call. We feel like this is going to be a useful tool for you as you're planning for 2025. If you pull this up from an email and it's starting to look weird, as I mentioned initially, there's some work we got to do on the back end. So if you start making use of this, please reach out to us and let us work with you offline to try to make sure that it's tightened up and buttoned up in a way that adds value.
The heart behind it is great. And I do think that it will be a great tool for our clients to be able to utilize in the future, but it is something that we have to clean up in a lot of ways on a client by client basis. As I continue to unroll this thing, I think it'd be a really great reorder tool for anybody who's like, what if we ordered in the past? Instead of walking over to the promo clause that may be on the other side of the office, you can just like pull it and be like, what the heck about orders? And then you can quickly just click reorder. And a lot of times, if you pick something from like 2 years ago, and if it says like reorder, like the pricing won't be accurate because it was from 2 years ago. But what it'll do is it'll ding us on the internal system that we can get pricing and get back to you and kind of go from that route. So the heart behind it is great, but still a really cool, really unique tool for you to use.
So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap us up here. This industry becoming so chaotic and so noisy, sometimes it can feel like you've done all the things. And that's another reason Partner Series is, we hope it's important to you guys and valuable, but it's really important to us because it also helps us to make sure that we're staying on top of what you all need to be seeing, because, we're human. And sometimes we also can feel a little bit of creative block where it's like, man, we feel like we don't want to keep showing the same thing. So this Partner Series becomes a tool for us to make sure that we're bringing those kind of things to your attention.